The library is open.
Because reading is what? Fundamental.
Hi, I'm Blue Bailey.
And I'm Dexter DeNovo.
And welcome to the Reading is Fundamental podcast or YouTube episode if you're watching it online.
The show where we talk about news and entertainment law.
Why? Because we're attorneys.
And you're not. That's right, that leather daddy
And this drag queen,
are both licensed California attorneys.
you better believe it.
And we love to chat about the news and gossip going on in the world of entertainment.
We celebrate queerness, sex positivity, and reading bitches for filth. And with that being said, the library is open.
Officially. So get those reading glasses on because today we're talking about
The TicketMaster debacle stemming from Taylor Swift, and hopefully will be
Now
another
Beyonce.
debacle with Beyonce.
who owns the copyright in a photo that you take for a stranger.
And what's going on with Jen Shaw and her contract for Bravo. I can't wait to see how this turns out.
But before we get into the material, we have a little legal disclaimer for you.
Yeah, but before we even get into the disclaimer, I just want to let you know
son.
that I'm doing heavy metal, I'm wearing the heavy metal hat, and I'm obviously not taking the heavy metal hat off. So, it's settled. I'm doing heavy metal.
What makes you think that you're
can have
good about heavy metal?
country. You can have country. You know why? Because you are a cunt.
Tree.
Tree.
A cunt tree.
All right.
Disclaimer.
The information on this episode is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship.
Catching up, we need to discuss probably one of the most pressing and important things recently. We have found out that Blue Bailey has been participating in a separate fantasy league
I have been with straight people.
with straight people. Okay, here's the thing. We've been doing a fantasy league for like 6 years now for Drag Race.
Yeah.
We have a little group that participates. We all do this. Just, I don't know what, last week?
Yeah.
You decided to drop a bomb on our group and tell us that you've been participating in a fantasy league.
I have a whole second
Separate life.
secret family.
You're literally a separate secret family with
I have children in Utah. I have a wife. And we participate in a Drag Race fantasy league. You know why? Because Drag Race is on MTV, and Drag Race is now for straight people.
Now drag. Oh my god, what was the thing yesterday? It was like, set your DVRs to slay. We need to watch it, but they're gonna be fierce.
I was listening to Las Culturistas, and they had two young women on who yeah, well, I don't know, but totally like everything was just slay,
Ugh.
slay.
You better work, mama, house down, bitch.
Yes, yes.
Yes, queen.
Anyways,
Oh my God.
back to this fantasy league. All I gotta say is maybe if you made it a safe space for me to
Shut
talk about my emotions,
up.
maybe if I felt heard, I would feel comfortable talking to you about it. Maybe you have not helped to foster trust and respect.
Speaking of trust and respect.
We made a whole goddamn podcast about you not trusting and respecting me. But yes,
How dare you?
I have a second fantasy league that my partner Sean asked me to be in with his straight friends. I'm currently winning.
And didn't disclose
but
that.
it's completely different. Like
I don't
it's
care.
done straight people style. There's like these
You literally were
multipliers.
hiding this from us. Actively hiding this from us.
I was-
Like, you were literally actively hiding this from us.
literally,
Literally,
Not-
actually.
not metaphorically.
Literally,
yes, I
actually
was.
hiding this from us. And now I'm putting you on the spot and talking about it in real life. Do you have an ear piercing right here? I never noticed that.
No, is it earwax?
You just have a hole in your head?
Yeah. A big hole, a gaping hole. Anyway.
In your heart because you're not telling people the truth. Obviously, I'm not upset about it at all, and I don't plan on bringing it up ever again.
Yeah, maybe you should talk to your therapist about it.
And I'm doing metal.
No, I'm doing metal.
You're
Again,
doing country.
I'm clearly wearing the heavy metal hat. So it's decided.
God.
You'll just have to do country. I loved how Sasha popped off and was like, it doesn't matter, we're gonna do great in whatever category. And Malaysia was like, yes,
we are. Don't say that.
Don't say that. But we're not backing down. And Sasha immediately was like, yes, but we're not doing that.
But we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Totally. No,
Yeah.
totally not. Not getting a pushover. Totally not either.
The season's been fun. It's been great. I think we've collectively all have said that the last like 2 or 3 episodes have been amazing. I mean, there'll be many more episodes by the time this is out, but we've currently just watched episode 6.
For some reason, I'm like not completely living in it. I will say it is much better than I thought it was gonna be.
I think we're not completely living in it because there's not enough time. We get in, we get out, and then we're done.
I mean, this is how you like to do sex anyway.
Yeah, in and out.
You're just like, I need you storing at the door at
Right. I gotta go to the gym
and
at
in
5
30 minutes. Yes. So I mean, you should be excited about this, but
I'm not. The judging has been off.
the judging's been so weird
So
too.
off.
And here's what I'm thinking. It's like, I think that they are playing this other game that's like really longevity. So I think we're used to being like, okay, this is how a season is going to go with like 10 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now the character arcs are so much longer that it's like all of them are going to have more ups and downs and like differentiations, you know what I mean? Rather than like one straight through line of a character story. And I think they're really trying to make them all look good because it's like in other seasons, it's like you won the first episode and the third episode. You know what I mean? Like boom, boom, because it was just how it is. Now we're at episode 6 and 6 different people have won.
Yeah.
And last year it was the same thing. It was like, I think we got through 7 episodes and there were 7 different winners. It's like, okay, well, we threw Georgia to win because it was like, okay, we need her to look good too.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So it's like, I think they did that with Aura, honestly. Like, I think they're like, okay, we'll give Aura the girl group challenge. They have already like premeditated that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And they're spreading it around because right now, or no, I guess
That's been different.
6 episodes,
No-
5 different winners.
Yeah. No one's won twice yet.
Yeah.
I will give it to the producers. I think there was a time where the audience was very in sync with the production, where it was like, okay, we're getting sob story here. This person's in the bottom and is likely the one going home. Or we've got it narrowed to 2. And I think production has flipped it on its head. Even with the Meet the Queens, like we're usually pretty in sync and able to gauge. We all thought Irene.
We all got fucked.
Was going to be going far, and then we follow production. We're like, oh, we're getting sob story. This person's on the bottom, and that person will be safe.
Yeah.
And then someone who didn't get any camera time will be in the bottom. Like, did Robin get any camera time? I thought we all were like, no.
I mean, at the end of the episode, you're like, she got screwed because it's like she got like no camera time. And like for every previous episode too, it was like, oh, Robin's on the runway. Yeah. And it's like, oh, and she's doing great. Okay, whatever. Like we don't even know. And it's like, I don't think we really even saw her personality until she got eliminated.
Yeah.
And then I watched What You Packin' today, and I was like, this is the first time I'm like meeting this person. Like, I don't feel.
But also, we're missing a whole half hour of the episode where they could have given us personality. Like, who knows what she gave that we didn't get?
I'm like so annoyed by it, but it's like, girl.
You know what? I could live at this hour if they like also been like, hey, go online.
Bonus content.
Give us the 90 minutes.
Yes. Like, I would buy that.
90-minute cut.
Whoa.
All right. Well, enough about Drag Race. I want to hear about copyright.
Here's the situation. You're at like a tourist destination and you're like, oh, I'm with somebody, but we want to take a picture of us together. So you go and ask somebody to take a picture of you.
Yeah.
And they snap a photo of you. And let's throw in some more shit in there. Let's say maybe they're like, okay, I'm changing the flash. I'm changing it to
they're
portrait
making
mode.
like creative selections. They're doing the angles.
They're doing like, oh, move in here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's great. Here, do you like it? Wonderful. Okay, lovely to meet you. Okay, bye.
Yeah. And this person, is this person a monkey or a human? Because that actually, we talked about this before. There is a court case where a monkey took a picture and the court eventually said that the monkey did not own the copyright.
Yes.
Okay.
But in this case,
it's a person.
It's a person.
Okay.
Who owns the copyright in that photo.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is all the times that we've been at Oasis.
I knew you were gonna say this.
And you've made me go outside.
I knew you were gonna say this.
In the alley where the cat-sized rats live.
Shut up.
And you ask me to take photos and video of you, but I do them creatively by turning the flash on. Do I own the copyright or do you? I think I do.
Okay.
I think okay, and let's be clear. We're talking about copyright when copyright is the owner or author of a creation of art. We're not talking about right of publicity. We're not talking about my right to exploit your image commercially.
Who owns the
or
copyright?
Yeah, we're just talking
to
about who someone else took the picture, who owns it. So what is basic copyright, Miss Copyright Expert?
An expression in a tangible medium, right?
So it's the expression of the idea. So it's an idea you have in your head expressed in a tangible medium.
In a tangible.
The tangible medium could be a photograph, it could be a video, it could be a painting, it could be a song, it could be an outfit.
It could be an outfit. It could be choreography. You immediately said it was the copyright vests in the person taking the photo. Why? Like, why does authorship go to that person and not the owner of the phone?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You would base authorship based on who owns the phone. So if it was me being like, hey, let me do it on my phone because I have the better camera, it would be my copyright. If you handed me your phone, you think it's your phone taking it.
So there's
right.
this guy named Shaw, not a different Shaw, but spelled the same.
Yeah. Jen Shaw?
Not Jen Shaw, person Shaw.
Person Shaw.
In the Northern District of Illinois, I believe,
Okay.
and they litigated this. So this guy actually went to a whole bunch of these like Hollywood things where he was like trying to be an actor and like whatever, and so he would get a lot of photos with like celebrities and post them on his IMDb and like whatever. So he was like really trying to make inroads in the like Hollywood community.
Yeah.
And now he's claiming that he owns the copyrights into all these photos because he's saying that he was like the person that was the author of it. He made all the creative decisions about it. He was like, oh, I'm telling you to take the photo for me. I'm standing in the position that I want to be in.
Ooh, okay.
Like, and whatever. Like, you know, I'm the one who wanted the photo in the first place. So like that makes it.
So that kind of makes me think like when you have a director of a movie who makes an appearance in their movie, so they're in front of the camera, but they're directing and making the creative decisions, and basically the photographer is just kind of like an appendage of them.
Yeah. See, that's a good point to like bring up, because it's like we talk about how like who owns the copyright in like films and stuff, right? So we had talked about that before where we're like, okay, if you're a camera person and the camera person's making like in time decisions and be like, oh, I need to go this, it'd be better if I did this or moved here or whatever.
Yeah.
They're making decisions, but that's still under the direction of the director, and they're still like an independent contractor or whatever working for
that right is contracted away. So there was a case that we read in copyright law. I don't remember what it's called or what it's about. Surprise. But maybe you'll remember. So the case had to deal with a painter who created a painting, but he didn't own the canvas and he didn't own the paint.
Yeah.
So the question was, does he own the copyright even though he didn't own the materials?
But I think that's a separate. I think that was under work for hire, right?
Yeah. Was it?
I think it was under work for hire.
But in that case, if it wasn't a work for hire,
I think that you needed more for that one to understand like what.
I think it's the same. Like the canvas and the paint is the phone. You're using someone else's canvas and paint to create a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns it? The person who owns the camera?
Yeah. I think I don't have an answer for this, honestly. But I was thinking, like, something that came to mind was like, okay, we can argue back and forth all day, right? And it's like, then we have really no strong evidence of what it was, because then it's just like, oh my gosh, now it's he said, like, blah, blah, blah situation.
Well, what did the court decide?
It's still
pending.
Well, they currently, in this last case, decided against the guy who was claiming ownership.
Okay.
Saying that he didn't show enough of the creativity and authorship or whatever, but I think you could. Like, there's plenty of situations where it's like, you are fully directing. You know what I mean? It's like, I've done all the presets on the camera. I know exactly what I want.
Yeah.
I'm going to be standing here. You need to be standing there. All I need you to do is push the button.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's a pretty clear-cut situation. But then it's like very clear-cut on the other side, where it's like, Mr. Christopher is very good at taking photos. So it's like, there's been many times where I've given my phone to Mr. Christopher and he goes, oh, sit here, do this, look here, blah, 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 fixes on the phone. That leans way more to his side, right? We would have a really hard time proving who said what in that moment, right? All we have as evidence is like somebody else took a photo and quite obviously you were not in the photo or you were not the one taking it because you were in the photo, sorry. But like what I think where this falls into more is like the issue of joint authorship. It's like, how do we, absent like you definitely did this or you definitely did this, I think it falls into joint authorship. And like, how do we decide how to exploit that afterward? So like, one, do you think it would be considered a joint authorship? Two, who has the rights to do what afterward?
I guess traditionally, if someone has joint authorship, each party shares the same rights evenly.
Yeah, unless it's negotiated otherwise, right?
Yeah, I think that's where the court should start. Where if you don't know the facts, if you don't know who's contributing what, I think the default should be joint authorship. The photographer gets rights for taking the picture. The subject gets rights for being the subject and or owning the art. And then if you wanted to fight over ownership, I think you would have to show evidence that you were the main creative force.
Philosophically, I think that makes sense. I think what happens is after that, how does it operationally work? Afterward, I have all the pictures on my phone and you're over here being a joint author and you're like, oh, I want to put these photos on the internet. And I'm like, no, bitch, it's on my phone. In how much does possession weigh in intellectual property? And it's interesting because it's like possession is not real. It's like literally,
which isn't a real law.
Well, it's like, I think it's so interesting because it's like, okay, yes, possession is a part of property law because it's like there is physical property, but it's like intellectual property is intellectual. Like it's not a physical thing. I mean, it's painting or whatever, but like, you know what I mean? So it's like possession of the work of art is even more amorphous because it's like, okay, it sits on my phone, which sits on a server.
I think at the very least, the photographer should be able to obtain a copy of their own work.
And do they sue for that if they don't give it?
I mean, yeah, what other you would have to. There would be no other mechanism to force someone to do that.
And here's another question.
Yeah.
How do you prove that you took the photo? That's like, I'm like, this is like a really interesting question. And I find it interesting because we've gotten through, I mean, how long has a smartphone been out? Like 15 years? It's like we've gotten through 15 years of like taking like each other's photos and selfies and shit. I guess even more if you have like a digital camera or a film camera or like whatever. And it's like we've gotten through this whole time where we're taking photos of each other and this is like the first time that we're like actually asking this question. So
I think you would have to have a witness. Witnesses.
You have a witness, maybe the other person in the photo is like witnessing for you or whatever, but it's like, if it's just the two of us, who knows?
Yeah. So I guess my default for the joint authorship would be assuming that you could prove that the other person took the photo. So I think my default without even being able to prove that would be the person who owns the camera.
But because of possession.
Because of possession. And you wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to establish a right in another person otherwise.
Yeah. Is that so? I think it's interesting that this question is happening now, and it is a hard question. I think, especially it's like this is obviously not something that fits easily in the fundamentals of copyright law. So it's like and it's something that's very ubiquitous. Like it happens all the time. Like in a tourist spot and in a club and like everywhere. It's like it literally happens trillions of times.
I could think like as evidence for the example of us going into the alley and taking photos. It's like there's photos of again, it would live on the camera, so how would I know? Like there's photos of you that I took. There's also video where you could hear me like directing you, but again, that evidence would exist only on your phone, so you would have to subpoena to get those records. It would be a mess.
It's a mess.
Financially,
not worth it.
Not worth it. Like, yeah, you may have a legal right, but like it's not going to be a good business decision to actually pursue that right.
And in the tourist situation, like if you're in a tourist zone or whatever, this is a complete fucking stranger. Like you have no idea and you're never like communicating with them ever again. So it's like.
So I mean, I guess what is the context of this case like?
The reason that he brought the case was because in 2012 he got arrested and charged with extortion by the FBI, and the media went crazy for it. And the media found these photos of him with all these other like celebrities, and they distributed them and used them in their media sources. So like after he got released, he sued them all, saying that they were using his copyright.
Okay.
In the photo.
Interesting. So like if the news were to publish photos that I took of you in a story, this case is basically like I would be the guy suing and being like, hey, you're using my pictures and my copyright and you didn't get a release, you didn't compensate me, you don't have a right to do it. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess in a weird conclusion, like who knows? Like we'll see how this ends up and keep tabs on it.
Yeah, I think he may have a solid case.
He does?
I think so.
I mean, it's obviously going to appeal. This was just the Northern District, so we talked about this. One of my friends loves to hear about this. I don't know why, but procedural stuff. So there's federal district courts.
Yeah.
So every state has a federal district court, and some states have more, and that's the first level of litigation or first level of like trial for like both federal or criminal and civil cases is the district courts.
The FEMA courts, right?
The FIFA courts.
The FIFA courts.
And then it'll go to an appellate court, and then the top of that is the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So do we just finish the Northern District? I'm sure he's going to appeal to appeals court, whatever district that is, 5th district. And then I don't know. If it gets to the Supreme Court, then we're all fucked because Amy Coney Barrett's there.
Do you think both Shaws are going to be...
Oh my God! We have this Shaw and then Jen Shaw.
Yeah,
oh
I can't wait to talk about that.
Okay, let's take a break and then we can talk about Jen Shaw.
All right.
Reading is fundamental. Reading is fundamental.
And we're back.
Let's talk about Jen Shaw.
Jen Shaw. Who is Jen Shaw?
She is a cast member on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
That's a totally leading question. She's a cast member on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City that I'm obsessed with.
Why did you just...
I got you to watch.
You did get me to watch.
It's amazing. So tell us about Jen Shaw.
I mean, she's all over the news right now because...
For what? What'd she do?
She just got sentenced to years.
6.5? I think 6.5.
I should have known that. She's got sentenced to time in person because of a fraud case. And I mean, it was on the news. I want to tell it from the Real Housewives side. So the Real Housewives side, this is what happens. They're about to go on a trip, I think to Aspen, and they get on to Vail. And then they get on a bus and they're like, oh, where's Jen? And then she comes there and then all of a sudden she gets this call.
Yeah.
And then she needs to like leave immediately. And they're like, where did she go? And then 30 minutes later, the FBI shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're looking for Jen Shaw. Which is honestly the best part of reality television, I think, that has happened in a long time.
It was amazing that they caught her fleeing on camera.
Yes, it was so good. And then they're like, where is she? And like, I don't know. And like, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so turns out they were looking for her to arrest her in a fraud case.
Mm-hmm.
The official charge was wiretapping because of federal laws. They can't...
What is wiretapping? I feel like that's pretty broad.
Wiretapping, the wiretapping statute is what federal prosecutors use in a lot of white-collar crimes because they are not able... There's no... statutes that are on point that are like directly related to what.
So yeah, so wiretapping is basically like when you get pulled over for having a taillight out. It's like kind of like a catch-all crime to like get your claws in.
Yes, I guess. So like, I mean, wiretapping or wire fraud.
Wire fraud.
Right.
I think it was wire fraud.
It might have been wire fraud.
I think wiretapping.
Oh, because I'm thinking of something from work.
You're thinking of something from work. Wiretapping. Because I had a wiretapping assignment, and basically wiretapping is recording someone without their consent.
Yes. So wire fraud. So committing fraud over wires. So, I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into the whole background, but the Commerce Clause that everybody gets tested on in law school.
No, nobody wants to hear about that.
Nobody wants to hear about the Commerce Clause. So
let's just
basically,
the dirty details of Jen
there
Shaw.
can only be so many laws that Congress can do on a federal level. We use this wire fraud to say, like, if you commit any crime using
Electronic communication.
electronic communications, that is a crime. So in this case, she was defrauding old people. And she was part of this like pyramid scheme type thing where they were like selling people services that were like not actual services. From what I understand, it's like, oh, you can start your own business and blah, blah, blah. And so they would sell them this thing or like a package that was going to help you start getting your business off the ground. And then they would sell them a website and then they would sell them something else. And it's basically useless.
Well, okay, so because I watched the like documentary on this.
There's a documentary.
Jen Shaw wasn't doing the actual fraud. She wasn't.
Oh,
like,
she's not making the phone call.
She wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't like making the phone calls to the old people, being like, "Hey, I want to sell you the services," and not following through. Jen had like a data company where she would collect information, so she was basically able to get a very tailored list of older people or people that would marks, pretty much people that would be at risk or a good target for shady people too.
Yeah.
And then she would sell these lists to the people that were doing the actual fraudulent acts.
Yes.
And the question was she doing it with the knowledge and benefiting from the people who were committing the fraud? Because they were paying her pretty handsomely for getting them these lists.
Yes. So I guess you touched on something that I think is one of the most important things about like her charge is for fraud to go through, there has to be knowledge that it's wrong, right? Like it has to be, you can't just be like, oh, they did it because it's like they could have done it by accident or they could have been tricked into doing it or whatever. It's like, there has to be knowledge that you knew this was wrong and you were still doing it.
I think we should like maybe even break it down further. So like the elements of fraud is pretty much you knowingly being deceitful to someone else to get an economic benefit.
Is it? Yeah, sure.
I don't know. The economic benefit part may not be the exact letter of the law, but it's like
knowingly being deceitful.
Knowingly being deceitful to either cause damage or get benefit. And in this case, the court, like her assistant, basically pled guilty right away.
Yeah.
I think it came with a number of years sentence. And Jen Shaw, I believe that she ended up pleading guilty.
So it was like, okay, we're gonna set a trial date and blah blah blah, and then literally the day before trial, she's like, okay, I'm gonna plead guilty. Yeah. Which I'm not a like criminal prosecutor, but I get why that is necessary. Sometimes it's like you really want to exhaust every defense that you can until you do it. I know it seems shady and it's like, oh, lawyer, blah blah blah, but it's like it really is a test of the judicial system that like you have to prove guilt. You know what I mean? Like, so we're going to not say anything until you 100% prove it. So I think that's fair. Yeah. But she just like came out eventually and was like, okay, yeah, I admitted to it. And I think her name is Emily Baker, but shout out to the YouTuber attorney who broke down all of the transcript for me so I could like listen to you and understand it. Girl. This is the best thing. She started going through it because in these actions, the government now can seize your assets, right? So it can come for your house and your car and blah, blah, blah. Bitch, they raided her house. Yeah. So in this itemized list, like written out in the transcript, it's like 1 Louis Vuitton, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. 1 pair of Coach this, 1 this, blah, blah, blah. 2 bangles from Listener.
So I have a quick question. And this kind of brings me like us back to like the Erica Jane stuff. So they have these lists. What do they do if she made a gift of these things to someone? Can they take the items from that person?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, I think if the person knowingly accepted them as like stolen or fraudulent, but they weren't even stolen or fraudulent.
Okay. This is what I'm saying. Okay. So these are like 1 Louis Vuitton this, 1 blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Then we get down to it. Yeah. 1 counterfeit Louis Vuitton purse. 1 counterfeit Louis Vuitton bag. That's 1 hilarious. Counterfeit, blah, blah, blah. And then she keeps on reading them. There was more counterfeit stuff than there was real stuff.
Oh my God, I love that. And this was all like,
we could get it right now.
This is all the court record?
Yes, this is on the record.
Hilarious.
It's like, and so like after the whole list, there was more counterfeit stuff. So it's like, I mean, it sucks for the federal government. They use the new seizure of assets to like try and get their money back or like whatever. I have a whole idea about government seizure of property anyway, but like they try to get their money back, but they're not getting any money back because it's all fraudulent, counterfeit shit. This shit.
All right, so there's another element to this that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's not the criminal element, it's the contract element. When all this broke, Jen Shaw had agreed to do a one-on-one interview with Andy Cohen.
Oh.
Like outside of her duty, like outside of the reunion, outside of her being a cast member of The Real Housewives. And she ended up backing down because she said that Bravo wouldn't agree to move certain clauses from her contract about kind of like fictionalizing storyline. And a lot of people were giving her shit for like not wanting to go and do this interview and like finally speak the truth. And I don't agree with that. Now, we haven't read her specific contract, but we did read the Drag Race contract. And I remember there was a clause in the Drag Race contract that basically was like, you agree to the network, like using your image and your likeness to produce any narrative that they want.
A storyline.
And it explicitly said that narrative could be false. So
and like bad.
yeah, false, defamatory,
Negative, yeah.
bad, putting you in a bad light. So I would assume that would be a pretty standard clause of all like reality-based entertainment and probably more. And I would think that that's the clause that Jen is talking about in this thing where it's like she could finally come up and speak the truth.
Yeah.
But with this clause, Bravo is...
They can take it and change it.
Is able to create whatever narrative they want. They literally could take different words, like cut out words from different conversations.
I hate these people.
and put the thing and to be honest, if you're trying to come out and rehabilitate your image, I could see that as being like a no-no.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. I didn't know anything about that, and I mean, this is how it happens, right? It's like negotiations are like going through, and sometimes negotiations fall through, and like that is what it is. And I mean, I agree, right? It's like if you're trying to rehabilitate your image, it's like you really don't want anybody taking any creative liberties with this.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Bravo did do that. Like they really, I mean, they're a TV show. But it's like they really milked it and made her look like a terrible person, and that she was like literally calling all of these like old people and taking their money and like whatever.
Yeah.
When in reality she was like a lead generation data broker.
Yeah.
Which is still smarmy. But like,
and we're not apologizing for or saying what she's done is cool. Like what
but they made it seem like she was
shitty.
like sucking the blood of old people.
Exactly.
When it's like,
Exactly. And like people online are like, oh well, she agreed to be on this, she should know better. And I'm like, yeah. But like, this interview is completely separate. She was trying, I feel like she was trying to do a legitimate interview to try to get clarity around her name.
Yeah.
And like, to me, it would be a legitimate concern to do an interview with someone that's able to rework it in any way that they want.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that it was like, that she's like the data broker type person. It's sad to say, but there's like lots of people that take advantage of like lots of other people, and a lot of them happen to be old because they don't know how to use the internet and they don't know like who this Nigerian prince is, and they like give money to people. But like, it really is like, there are sites like walkintubs.com or like whatever, where it's like, you know, seniors are gonna go to these sites, and then once you get to the thing, they input their information like, oh, I'm interested in knowing this. They put their telephone number. Then somebody calls them for a walk-in tub.
Yeah.
And it's like, it ends up being something way different. And then they go down these lines, they end up giving people money or whatever. And it's like, they don't know that this is like not a legitimate business and that they're not actually getting the services that they want. But it's literally people putting their information. And once that information is there, people like Jen Shaw can take that list of phone numbers and just shop it around to a whole bunch of people. And they're like, here's a high likelihood that this person's 85. Here's a high likelihood that this person lives in Florida. Like,
it would be, if we want to give like a real example of like real physical, like robbing and stuff, it would basically be like Jen Shaw telling robbers, hey, these 10 people are gone on vacation from their home. These homes are vulnerable, and then these people go in and rob their homes. So Jen Shaw's not actually going into the houses and robbing them, but she is part of the scheme of the people who are doing it. You don't agree with that?
I agree with the thing, just not the robbing. It's like it's like saying Jen Shaw's like, hey, these people are probably gonna want to buy your
Right.
services,
Yeah.
your services,
Right.
she's knowing that these services are not real.
Right.
Like that they're just junk, like that people are going to be taking their money and not giving them anything. So it's like these people will be interested in your moonshine or like your, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
your
your, like,
fake
miracle
diamonds,
cure, yeah.
or
Yeah.
your miracle cure or like whatever. So it's like, you know, this is not real, and then you're like, here's people who might be susceptible.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they should do a show in prison with Jen Shaw.
Okay, so one of my favorite...
And then we get the whole "can you profit on your crimes" thing.
Oh my God. So one of my favorite, like, trashy reality television shows is Love
After Lockup.
And it's about people who start dating people who are incarcerated, and they form the relationship. So I would love to see, like, the Jen Shaw reality, like, dating show where she's there.
What is it with gays and like trashy reality shows?
And we love it.
And we all have like a really shitty ones that we love.
Yeah.
Like Love After Lockup or
like
whatever.
Real Friends of WeHo.
Crickets. Let's take a break.
Yeah. And when we come back, we're going to give our recap of the Real Friends of WeHo.
Reading is fundamental. Reading.
Great segue.
Our last topic today is, of course, Beyonce, the Ticketmaster debacle.
So it's a Senate Judiciary Committee. Why would the Senate Judiciary Committee be looking into Ticketmaster?
That's a good question. Why would they?
I honestly don't know. That seems kind of weird, honestly.
So let's rewind a little bit.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, yes. So we all know that things went to hell with Taylor Swift tickets.
We tried to. We knew all too well.
We knew all too well that things were going to shake it off, and that there would be a lot of bad blood between the Senate and Ticketmaster.
And an anti-hero.
And an anti-hero that we knew all too well. Did we use that one already?
I think so.
Oh, shit. Okay. Anyways, Taylor Swift fans, like, they try to do this thing where only verified fans can purchase tickets because, as we all know, scalpers buy tickets. You can't even get a ticket, and then they're resold for shit. That system crashed. It didn't work. We actually watched a couple amusing videos of
White girls crying.
White girls crying that they waited hours.
6 hours.
And still didn't get it's you should look them up. They're amazing. But we also saw stories that there was a woman who waited hours and checked out like 42 times for tickets and was charged
42 times
each time, and she still didn't end up with tickets, which eventually
she got her money back.
She got her money back, but like there's a whole big to-do that Ticketmaster crashed and failed. And it caused AOC to bring it up with the government. It caused a bunch of individual lawsuits. There is like a Consumer Protection Act that I think had like a $2,500 like penalty. But basically, individuals started suing.
Oh, and a consent decree.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the government had been like, Ticketmaster, you cannot do these following things.
Oh wait, what the fuck is a consent decree?
So a consent decree is like from like the Federal Trade Commission. You can do something. So it's like Federal Trade Commission is in charge of enforcing the Federal Trade Act, which is like anti-competitive, blah, blah, blah. You can't have a monopoly, all that kind of stuff. They put consent decrees on companies that are like, hey, bitch, we saw what you have been doing, and from now on for the next 20 years, you cannot do X, Y, and Z. And if they do any of those things, then they have even more power to like get rid of it.
We have this like collection of individual lawsuits going on across the United States for various reasons, for violation of the consent decree, for consumer protection, for emotional distress of having to sit for 6 hours and crying.
I can't believe that is like actually a claim.
But the main takeaway is that it really highlighted the issue that Ticketmaster is a monopoly. Like, and a monopoly.
Yeah, what's a monopoly?
So a monopoly is, again, defined.
A game.
Is a game. It's a game with money. So a monopoly is defined by the FTC as a sole company that has at least 50% of the share of the market. And in this case, Ticketmaster has 70% of the market. Then this is stemming from a merger of Ticketmaster and Live Nation that occurred 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think
Maybe
like
over?
10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a problem because it's like when they consolidated, they get the majority of the market because they now own both the venues and the tickets to sell to those venues.
Right.
So it's like they have everything down the line. So if an event happens, they get money from the event venue. They get money from the tickets. They get probably like money from merch and like whatever.
Yeah. So Ticketmaster owns 70% of the market, and that translates into they're the only person to buy the tickets from. They actually own the secondary market.
That is shady as fuck.
Which means that like when someone buys a ticket and they can't go, or if you're a scalper and you're trying to make money, the secondary market is where you resell the tickets.
Yeah.
So Ticketmaster owns where you buy the tickets. They own where you can resell the tickets. And the main like comeback to that is, well, just stop using Ticketmaster. Go somewhere else.
Okay.
When you have an artist like Taylor Swift who is at the level where you can only perform in stadiums, there is nowhere else to go because stadiums, all the stadiums that are available have an exclusive contract with Ticketmaster. So there is nowhere else to go. Like if Taylor Swift wanted to go somewhere else, where would she go? Where's a place that's large enough? Like she'd basically have to like rent out like a hotel or something like that.
I don't even know.
Or
what holds 50,000 people? That's not a stadium.
Yeah, we don't have
your ass. Yes.
Accurate. Well, aside from playing inside my ass, like, we don't have the infrastructure or the venues available. All the mainstream venues have exclusive contracts with Ticketmaster. And when Ticketmaster has a monopoly over the industry, they're allowed to set unfair prices. They're allowed to do things that don't basically benefit the consumer or the market.
Gouging the consumer, basically.
Right. And this is why there's like these crazy processes to get tickets. This is why that your ticket's listed for a price, but by the time you check out, there's like another $100 fee with the ticket. It's because like, where else are you gonna go? You only have one option.
Yeah.
So what's come out of the Taylor Swift debacle is kind of two things. With Beyonce, they're not releasing all the tickets at once. And there's already shown that there's a higher demand for Beyonce tickets than Taylor Swift.
800 times %.
Sorry about it if you're a Swiftie fan. I'm a Swiftie fan. I'm also a Beyonce fan. I love all my divas evenly. I don't have money to see all of them. I think Madonna's going to have to fall to the sidelines.
We'll see Madonna.
We'll see.
She hates Madonna. Put it on record.
So we first have this new system of tickets with Beyonce where like she's splitting it up into three groups. There's Group A, Group B, Group C. Group A is like one pocket of cities, Group B is another, and Group C. And you basically register to be put into a lottery. And you'll, so I registered for San Francisco. I missed the LA one, and now I just registered for San Francisco.
Vegas?
No, Vegas was in the first group.
Oh.
I missed it. And basically, like the night before, they'll let me know if I've been selected to purchase tickets. And then when tickets go on sale, you'll be put into a queue, and it will show how many people are waiting in line. We've already seen this happen. The tickets went on sale for Paris. I think there was over 800,000 people. There were 3 times as many people that could fit in the venue in line waiting to get tickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a mess.
So we have a whole different structure in ways that people are purchasing tickets. Like that has evolved from people going to like record stores and waiting in line.
Yeah.
The other thing that it's brought attention to is it's brought attention to the Senate about whether the merger of Live Nation and Ticketmaster is still valid.
Yeah.
And like what can the Senate do? Like they actually like they just had a hearing based off the Taylor Swift debacle where they met with all the CEOs of the industry and heard them out. But like literally what can be done from this? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm the one who's like does all the like boring background of all the laws. But like the reason that we have like the Federal Trade Commission and all the things is because of capitalism. And yes, we hate capitalism because it's the source of all evil, but it also enables us to live in a society where we get to go watch Taylor Swift and do all these things. But the point of like having these anti-competitive practices is because if we want capitalism to continue like it is, we need competition. There needs to be multiple venues for people to go. Otherwise, if there's only one venue for people to go to, you can be not harassed, but like taken advantage of. Like you can be like taken advantage of really if it's like this is the only person offering bread, they can charge whatever they want for bread.
Yeah.
So we want to make it so that there's lots of different places that you can go to in order to do this. And
So they want to compete with each other.
yes,
and, like,
we want competition.
yes.
And we want different areas so that the consumers can choose what is best and that the consumers choose the market and like the best product wins eventually. So that it's not just the one person doing bread, because then it's like they could give you stale as bread, whatever. It's the only one that's available.
Right.
But if we have like 14 different kinds, then the consumers decide we're willing to pay this much for this bread, we're willing to pay this much for this bread, blah, blah, blah.
We've seen a lot of this actually, I think, in like telecommunications law
Yeah.
with like internet service providers,
Yeah.
cable providers,
Yeah.
kind of like utility providers. And in a way, this is what you consider utility? Or does Ticketmaster?
I don't know
utility?
I don't know if it's a utility. I mean, it's definitely a ticket vendor. I don't think it's a utility
Really?
because it's like
No.
that needs to be like water, electricity, Wi-Fi now. But like,
Are you telling me that I won't die if I don't get Beyonce, Madonna, Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga tickets?
you're gonna die from AIDS.
So the FTC, like we're getting to the point where that the government is become aware, maybe more than aware. Maybe they've always been aware, but the government is willing to do something
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of public pressure
Yes.
from Taylor Swift fans. Like Pearl Jam tried to fight Ticketmaster about 10 years ago and just like couldn't get the momentum, couldn't get the support. Taylor Swift fans are doing it.
Yeah.
And you know, God is my witness, if these fucking Beyonce tickets get fucked up, Beyonce fans, the Beehive is gonna come after the FTC and Ticketmaster to
Yeah.
do something. So we have a monopoly. Has there ever been a time when a monopoly has been broken up and like
Yeah.
what does that look
Like
like?
in the railroads, right?
But like what does it mean? So like if you take Ticketmaster and you break it up back into Ticketmaster and Live Nation,
Mhm.
aren't they in theory still owned by the same person, and couldn't they just like agree to like be like, hey, like you're my sister organization, can we just agree to like still do the same shitty practices?
Yeah, it just, by separating it, it allows other people to enter the market, right? So it's like then, I mean, they could still be doing their deals, but it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It allows people, but yeah, I mean, there have been broken ups
Broken ups.
of monopolies before. I think the like traditional, or the one that we think of the most is like the railroads. Like the railroads were like all in under one conglomerate. Like they owned the whole production cycle, like
Yeah.
all the things, and eventually they broke them apart. So there could be like more competition, but I don't know exactly how it works, but I imagine it's like they force them to make a sale. And of course, like business people don't like this because business people are like, government shouldn't be telling me what to do with my business and blah, blah, blah. But it's like they force them to make a sale to a different set of investors or whatever, and then the government oversees it all. So it's like, okay, we know that you don't have as many connections as this, and they like see where all the ties are and everything and make sure that's like unwound. But yeah, I mean, like it would mean that they would have to force Live Nation to like sell venues or like sell other things to give other people a chance to have a share in the market.
Okay, so they could force Ticketmaster to split, but then they can also look through at all of Ticketmaster's contracts and be like, hey, you have all the stadiums.
Yeah.
You can only have 70%, and you need to release these 30. And then these 30 stadiums don't necessarily have to go to Live Nation. They're open to go somewhere else. But like I guess I'm also seeing it as a problem. Like if you're splitting one company and then it's just one company acting as two, that they could still act shitty.
I think that there will be another head of the other companies. You know what I mean? So like, let's say you're like the head of like the Oakland Coliseum or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have this agreement with Ticketmaster. You can decide, I don't want to do that anymore. There's new vendors there. I want to go with this one. So it's like, it allows you to break the contract.
Okay.
And do something else.
So it would be basically allowing another company that would be like, it would be another opportunity for another company to step in and kind of be the hero.
Yes.
Okay.
The anti-hero.
The anti-hero.
I'm doing good today.
You are doing good. So I was reading that some of the main complaints or some of the arguments that Ticketmaster could make would be like the FTC thoroughly reviewed the merger.
That's really shitty.
Like this, like the FTC should have stepped in from the beginning, or like said something about the beginning. Why did you wait 10 years to do something? Like you've kind of lost any right to say so. Do you think that's a valid argument?
I think it is until it's like, bitch, things change. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, sure, this is what had happened before, but we are living in a different world now. Like, I know it's only been 10 years, but the world is moving very fast and like things change. And now we have 800,000 people trying to get tickets for one thing. So it's like things change. So it's like, I don't think there's anything wrong to say like, it's a different situation. We need to reevaluate it. I could see the FTC being like, it was a different time. And 10 years ago, this seemed appropriate and it wasn't causing harm to consumers, but things change and they have. And you've like abused this. Like you could say that we've done that and we've allowed it for this set of circumstances, and you've taken it and abused it in a way that we didn't like. You've abused it. I could also see kind of like what happened with Southwest, where they're like, girl, all these like flights were canceled, but like you didn't update your software, you didn't put it in the infrastructure. And it's like, if you want to act as the number one and only player in the game, then you also need to like invest and like be able to provide the consumer with a reputable product. So do you think we're actually going to see some good change out of this? I think we are. I think so. I think so only because there's already been preemptive like talk about it. So it's like, I mean, as soon as the Beyonce thing came on, it was like meme after meme after meme of like Ticketmaster, what I'm doing to get tickets, blah, blah, blah. Is Ticketmaster going to screw us again, blah, blah, blah. And then shortly after, it's like the Senate Judiciary Committee. Well, I don't know why the Judiciary Committee is doing it, but anyway. like the Senate Judiciary Committee is like, hey, we're looking at you. So it's like, I think that's positive in the fact that like, we're already on top of it and it's warning Live Nation, Ticketmaster to be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't play games right now.
Yeah, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Get your shit together and don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
I remember like in one of the videos we watched, they were like, hey, this is like one of the first unifying issues that's uniting Democrats and Republicans. And to be honest, it's like, it seems a little stupid to say that, but it's true. That's not true. I mean, okay, not the first, but literally, but it is something that's unifying. We all like going to concerts. We all like live entertainment. We all like having these experiences. Except for drag queens. We don't like drag queens. No. Wait, we don't? They just made the law in Arkansas that like doing drag is like banned. Okay, that's another. Well, you said live performances. Girl, that's a whole other episode. You said live performances. This isn't even art. Wow. You're just like being young at a festival. And you're just a hole. Okay. Yeah. Excuse me. I have a concert venue. But I think we can all agree that like we all don't like it when we can't get our tickets. We all don't like it when the ticket prices are jacked up. We don't like the fees. Like everyone can agree upon that. And I think because there's such a unanimous consensus. Yeah. And now that we finally like have our crusaders, we have Taylor Swift fans and we have Beyonce fans kind of putting public pressure on the government, I think we're going to see some change out of this. Yeah. I will say the other example where you're like, this is the first unifying thing, and I was like, no. Because just like a few years ago, we got a new amendment to the Copyright Act for digital music. So we got a whole amendment to the Copyright Act, which is huge. And it was signed by Donald Trump. Like, you know what I mean? He had no fucking idea what was going on. Let's be real. No. But it's like, there was actually like bipartisan movement for decades ahead of this. And it was people like Taylor Swift who were like, I should be getting my money for these digital plays and stuff like that. So I do think it is interesting that art is the thing that's like making the waves or whatever. And I think that's great because a lot of shit has happened in the world in the last couple of years, but I am adamant that we are living in like one of the best artistic times in recent history. Like, we're getting good film, we're getting good music, we're getting good TV. It's taking all the fucking drama of this country to produce it. But we're getting great art, and maybe art is changing the world in Ticketmaster ways. I'm going to be a little bit of a Taylor Swift apologist here. I mean, there was a lot of criticism that Taylor Swift wasn't using her platform to do good. That like she wasn't speaking out against Trump. But then she does, and then people get upset about it. Well, I mean, I think that's a separate issue, but she wasn't speaking out about white supremacy. She wasn't doing A, B, C, D, whatever. But I mean, I think people forget about what she has kind of done for the music industry. Yeah. And like, she wrote the letter to Apple Music and got them to change their whole revenue sharing profit to get smaller independent artists paid.
Yeah.
She,
And that's what started the copyright act.
That's
Get that rolling.
That's what started the Copyright Act. At the beginning of Me Too, she sued the producer for $1 to make a statement about the sexual harassment stuff. And I mean, yes, she didn't come out with like gay pride flags, and she could have done a lot more, but like to say that she wasn't doing nothing, I think she's been very strategic and actually has done a lot to help the music industry. Yeah. She's picking her battles, and I think in a way she's doing it again with Ticketmaster. Yeah. Even if she was, I'm going to set you up to fail, and I'm going to get this large group of the nation against this company to make change.
She's doing it. She's doing it honestly. Like, there's been so many times where people are trying to make change and they're just pulling the same levers. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think she really is going and like just fucking kicking the machine. And
she's like literally like punching the machine in the throat and like getting results. And I think that's commendable. That is commendable.
Yeah, I agree. She's making a lot of change. And it's like, girl, I really hate all the people who are like, oh, she's not doing this, she's not doing that. Because she's not doing it in the way that you want it to do doesn't mean she's not doing anything. Like, it's the same for any situation, I think. Yeah. So I don't love Taylor Swift as a musician, but...
So you're not going to buy me concert tickets?
No. But I will stand her in what she does for advocacy. Yeah. You need to calm down. And then what's the gay one that she made?
Oh my god, you should be a singer.
What's the one that she made with all the gays and like Jay Jolie was in it?
Jay Jolie was in it, Todrick was in it, and everyone's like, oh, it's performative.
And she's just trying to get the gay vote. It's like, whatever. She gave Jay Jolie work, which is great.
Yeah, she gave a shit ton of queer artists work. And
yes, and they all love her. Like every single one of them was like, we had a great time, and like she made us feel really welcome, and she knew like what our lingo was and how to, you know what I mean? It wasn't like performative at all. So.
Except it was, because it was an actual performance. But I digress. I think that wraps up our topics.
All right, so in this episode, we talked about Jen Shah and her guilty plea.
We talked about the other Shah who was taking photographs using people's cameras and determined if he owned the copyright or not.
And we talked about the new Beyonce tour and whether Ticketmaster and their monopoly is going to be exploiting consumers, but we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think, so leave us a comment.
Yeah, if you'd like to leave us a comment or write us in, please email us at readingisfundamentalpodcast@gmail.com.
And may we please ask you to rate and review our podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at readingisfundamentalpodcast or individually at Blue Bailey SF.
And at Dexter DeNovo. And most importantly, read your damn contract.
Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
Fundamental.
To understanding the terms, conditions, and expectations of your entertainment contract.
Fundamental.
Fundamental.
Not necessary. Fundamental.
The library is permanently closed. Because reading is what? Fundamental. Fundamental.
Oh, I would never read my sisters. Here we go.
Oh my god.
Dexter DeNovo. Ugly, fat, big nose.
Amethyst.
Oh, your turn. No, but seriously, if you have a read for Dextra or myself, just let us know.
Honestly, we'd live for it.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter. Hell, if you see us out at the bar, come up to us and
read us your fill.
Yeah.
Love it.